Sure. Budget Committee of January 16th, 2024. Begin with welcome and introductions of the committee. Ned Rogerson, Doug McAllister, Tino Fernandez, Chair, Sharon Schilling, Vice Chair, Sarah DiMartino, School Representative, Joe Dame, John Arruda, Selectman Representative. We will have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Sharon Schilling.
That's what I was trying to do. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Go ahead, Charles.
Courts are going crazy.
All right, before we go any further, I have an opening statement for tonight's meeting. At the Selectmen's meeting of January 9th, there was public criticism by the Madison Police Chief of our last ABC meeting held on December 5th, 2023, and of some of our members. After reviewing the video of that meeting and the minutes, which we are about to review as a committee, I find that criticism unwarranted and potentially intimidating, especially when coming from an authority figure such as the Chief of Police. I want to assure the members of this committee and the public that we are completely committed to unfettered inquiry of our town finances. I believe this is why we were elected as an advisory budget committee, independent of the Board of Selectmen and the school board, and so that we could provide informed and accurate evaluation of Madison finances. I urge our committee to continue its work and maintain a professional and civil questioning of any town expense, be it a contract, equipment cost, salary, or benefit expense. Tonight's meeting is very full. I would ask the members of the committee to be as concise as possible with questions or comments so that we can efficiently plow through our work. The agenda item for public comment is at the end, and I ask the audience to please honor that and save their comments and questions till then. All right, so we move on to our first item, which is approval of the minutes of December 5th, 2023. And there is a correction to be made in the default budget for the school committee, and I think I provided Linda with the correct number, so. There are also some other typographical ones. Sharon, you want to go through those?
Yeah, me. On page 2, the second paragraph that begins with Schilling began a general discussion. The third line down, I think it is selection, but the discussion. Oh, no, sorry, second line, second sentence where it says discussion led how employees, the word to should be inserted in there. The next line, and when does someone make more than their worth is in quote, or in the salary range, that should actually read the job's worth, not their worth, not the person's worth, but the job is worth. Fourth paragraph down. I don't want to go too fast, Linda. If you need me to slow down, let me know. Fernandez attempted to bring the discussion back, that sentence. The last line of it, post the comma where it says, or defer a payment, it should say, like for a vehicle. We're not deferring payments for vehicles.
Can you explain that again?
Sorry, yeah. The second line says, for budgeting because wages are not something that you can order less of, comma, or defer a payment for a vehicle.
Oh,
It should say a payment like for a vehicle. Or that doesn't actually sound grammatically correct either.
I see where you're going.
Yeah. The next paragraph, 1, 2, 3, fourth line down, starting with Gray. The second gray in the line says, Gray if she feels it is because of nepotism, to which Gray's, it should say Gray stated. Take the S off. The next line after that, where it says salaries are in proportion and are the townspeople, the next word are should be crossed out. The next line down where it says nepotism can come with a small town and it is good, the word to should be inserted, have this discussion. 2 lines down from that, it doesn't make sense, period. Schilling should have a C in Schilling. The next line, the first word unsubstantiated, I believe the word was unsustainable, not unsubstantiated. Four words later, it says, and it all bears. Bears should be B-E-A-R-S, or it's, I don't think that's B-A-R-E-S. I don't know, you can double check me on that one, now that I look at it. The next paragraph, the last line in it, this information and more prior to 2019 had this information in the town report. That sentence doesn't 100% make sense. Are we trying to say that the town reports prior to 2019 had this information and more in it?
Would you like it to read?
I think we start with prior to 2019, the town report had this information and more in it. The next page, first sentence, after to amend the motion to include only information instead of what is, should say that is, replace the W with a T. One, two, three, four, five, sixth paragraph down that begins with Fernandez asked about the slam line. The end of the second line where it says non-taxpayer / residents, ROM should be from. The next page. First line, there are two containers, one 10-yard and one 8-yard. Aruda thought if it fits our truck, I think it's supposed to be fits in our truck. Because they were talking about putting the waste yard containers in the truck to haul it. All the way down where it says, thanks was extended to Rogerson for this work, and it should be his work on the CIP and budget document. And that's all I have.
Are there any other corrections or additions? Is there a motion to accept these minutes with corrections as elicited or so moved?
Seconded.
Second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So the next item is discussion of the town and school health insurance costs, and Joe Damewood has done some work on this and wanted to talk to us about this.
I made like 14 copies. I wasn't sure with the snow how many people it actually comes in. No, as Tino said, I'm the one who brought this up. Actually, it started a couple of meetings ago when I spoke to Linda, about it. The reason it came up was back at an earlier meeting, it showed a 26.9% increase in the budget for 2024's health insurance premium costs. And what's what's going on? Why such a big jump? That type of thing. So I started. I asked Linda some questions, looking into it. I've done a lot of research on this, and I think, as we all know, the prices of everything have gone way up. If you just go to Memorial Hospital or to your doctor and then get the bills after, you know how expensive healthcare is. And this is not just a Madison issue. This is nationwide. That healthcare costs that have gone up in the last 10 years. They're exceeding the inflation rate. Healthcare costs, it went up 114.3% versus 80.8% for all consumer goods. And it's continued to rise. It's going to outpace inflation through at least 2030, 2031. So to look at more current data, what I did, I pulled the 2024 costs for private insurance, American Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and Medicare health premiums. And this year, 2024 is going to be a big jump for all plans, just not private insurance or what's covered by Madison. This is nationwide. It's going to be a 6 to 7% increase. And it's just because, inflation, the costs are going up, especially for prescription drugs and that type of thing. I compared the cost increases for, the Obamacare, Affordable Care Act is going to be over 6% in 2024. Again, it's based on the cost of medical care and prescription drugs. People that are over 65 on Medicare Part B, has gone up 5.9% to $174.70 a month. And the annual deductible for Medicare Part B also increased by 6%. I looked at the federal government Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. You know, what's this going to look like in the future? You know, are we going to see these huge increases year after year like we've seen for the last 10 years? And they predict this year, 2024, private insurance costs are going to rise by 7.6%. But they're going to become more stable through 2025 to 2031. But the average annual growth rate is expected to be 5.2% between 2025 and 2031. But based on these numbers and the impact on future town of Madison budgets, the medical costs and insurance costs are still going to outpace inflation by approximately 3% a year. Right, so every year we're going to have that compounded difference. And it looks like inflation rates, according to the Federal Reserve St. Louis office that publishes this data, starting next year is going to drop back down to about 2.3%, then down to 2%, 2.1%. There's some charts I have in here. So it looks like inflation is going to go back to about 2.1% a year. But the health insurance premiums are still forecast to increase at 5.2% each year. So again, we have that 3% difference. So what I did, I put together just a little chart graph here. I looked at, in 2023, the actual cost the town paid was $290,000. In 2024, the budget, I got Linda's new numbers, they are down to $304K for 11 employees. And 2025, it'll be up to $320. By 2031, we're talking $434,000 a year at that 5.2% inflation rate. You know, and these costs are going to significantly impact our out-year budgets. You know, and I credit for Linda with the new numbers. You know, the government was expecting about a 6 to 7% increase in health care insurance premiums this year. And the latest budget from Linda shows that the town increase is actually 6.8%. So, you know, the data's matching there. But I just wanted to make everybody aware that, you know, starting 2025 on, you know, we start to see this, you know, 5.2% expected increase every year. It's going to significantly, you know, be an additional burden to the budget, you know, and I'm not sure how the town leadership, you know, we need to factor that in. Decide, you know, I don't know what other towns in New Hampshire are doing or across the nation. I mean, private industry, government is being impacted by the same, you know, issue. But, and there are a couple variables. I just, you know, again, it's going to depend. The numbers I have in there were based on Linda's latest cost projection for 2024. But, you know, if we add employees, you know, additional costs, or if, you know, people switch from single to South Plus One or family plans, you know, the cost can vary significantly. So these, I was just trying to show the trend of where these numbers are going and the future impact that we need to start thinking about, you know, for as we get later in the decade. That's all I have. Anybody have any questions or so?
I think the only thing we as a town can do, and I don't know how much we can do, and this, I leave this to Linda and John to answer. I know we belong to a municipal group for which we purchase our insurance, and certainly you need to be in a large enough group to get a reasonable premium. Are there alternatives for us to investigate in the future for our town insurance? The individual premiums are reasonably high, and I can't remember them exactly, but I remember one of the school family premiums was like $36,000 for a family plan. That, I think, would be considered a Cadillac plan. So,
Maserati.
anyway, so I think one of the maybe long-term goals for us as a town would be to see if there's any possibility of us joining any other type of group which would offer us a better premium rate. And this is something that the entire society is facing. Healthcare costs are going up, insurance
Yeah, very expensive.
goes up. But I think every now and then, you know, as an individual, people, if they have to pay their own plans, do look around to see what works and what plans are available. Obviously, some plans that are inexpensive, have large deductibles, aren't as attractive. But anyway, but thanks, Joe, for doing that work and emphasizing that this is a cost that really will probably outpace inflation.
Yeah,
And have
please note, this is a very complex and challenging issue. This is just not the town of Madison. This is, you know, we're all in this, whether local, state, federal government, private industry. Costs are going up a lot faster than inflation. And again, I don't know what the solution is, right? You know,
I take it that the
Yeah.
school uses the same,
I'm not sure. Yeah, I didn't dig that deep.
I don't think so.
The school has a different healthcare provider or something?
Sarah's right here.
Okay, Sarah,
I'm
Sarah.
not on it, so I don't know really what it
Okay.
is, but
Yeah.
Jim might
Jim's
be able
there.
to tell us.
The school uses school care.
Okay. No, I'm not sure.
It's another,
what these-
it's another buying group through the New Hampshire school system.
But again, it's a group policy, a lot
That
of
is
different
correct. Not
schools
ju-
are
it's not
are part of
just
it.
Madison.
Okay. No, that's- No, and again, I just wanted to raise the awareness with the selectmen and town leadership that, you know, a few years from now, we're gonna be looking at, wow, you know, it's a significant part of the budget now. No, That's the
Just
only
like
comment I
this-
have.
Just like to say that this is not a new trend.
Right.
This has been going on for the last 20 years.
Yes.
That the healthcare is going up faster. You might have one year where it blips down a little bit, but overall, healthcare is always going up at a greater rate than inflation.
And it's important that everybody has it.
No, I agree, and I fully support that.
Right.
And I just wanted to be aware, look and go,
Right.
you know, again, it started when I saw a 26.9% increase.
Right.
Wow, you know, what happened here, you know?
Right.
And then instead of that number, we're actually this year looking at 6.8, which is in line with where the nation, right, where the
Right.
inflation rate nationwide is going. But again, what's 5 years from now, where is that cost gonna be?
So, I'm sorry, I think we've had part of this discussion before with regard to the fact that we're on a municipal group, or we're in a
Yeah.
municipal group. What's the name of that plan? What's the name of that group?
health trust.
Health trust, I
Health-
think, is that what it is?
Is that it?
Yeah.
Health trust? Yeah, I
Health
wasn't sure,
trust.
so.
I just found one, just quickly, it's called the New Hampshire Interlocal Trust, and they offer municipal employee health insurance. I don't know if we ever looked at it or not, but it certainly would behoove the town to look at that plan.
I think that's what Conway school system is on, Conway School District, because I remember I get emails from the interlocal trust.
Yeah, it's part of the New Hampshire Municipal Association.
I think, you know, looking at this, and looking at Joe's numbers, you're looking at a 50% increase over the next 8 to 9 years in those healthcare costs, and it becomes a major part of the budget. It becomes, it already is a major part of the budget, but it becomes much more significant, and especially if we start to add people. I think it warrants every couple of years, and this may be the one to start. I mean, we go through the budget and we do what we're gonna do with regard to passing it or not passing it, but I think it's time to sit down and take a look at other options, other plans, other ways of either reducing the cost to the town, but still maintaining the essence of the benefits to the employees. Nobody wants to take away anybody's health care, but what we want to do is make sure that the burden of the payment of that health care is something that the town can sustain for a long period of time, and that it needs to be looked at, it needs to be revised or you know, analyzed to figure out what's the best cost benefit analysis for everybody, looking and surveying the participants in the plan and finding out what's the most important piece to them, what's the most the largest benefit piece that they're looking at. Is it, no deductible, low co-pays, I need high prescription coverage, those kinds of things, and using that to determine where the best way to go is. Because again, I don't think that the town can not pay attention to it because it's such a significant piece.
Okay. Thanks again, Joe, for bringing
Okay.
that to our attention. And if we don't have any further discussion on that topic, I'd like to move on to the Madison School District warrant articles, which we are about to vote on. I think everybody has a copy of the warrant articles. Okay. Just for the public, I guess I'll, on video or whatever, or whoever is in the room without a copy, I will read the article and open for any discussion or comments, and then we will vote on each article. Okay. So, Article 1, we do not vote on. That is the choice of school district officers. Article 2. Shall the school district raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, and totaling $7,110,576. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $7,020,176, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the school district or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10 and 16, chapters 10 and 16, to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. The school board has recommended this appropriation unanimously 4-0 votes. And it's open for discussion here. Does anyone wish to make any comments about the budget? First of all, before we do that, I would like to thank Jim Curran and the school committee and the administration for their cooperation. They've really provided us with all the information we've wanted, answered our questions as best as we could understand, and it's a complicated and long process, takes years to kind of understand all the ins and outs of it, and I certainly appreciate how they've worked with us and helped us to try to help us to understand this. So, any discussion here? I have one discussion, one point, and I've brought it up at several meetings. I find that I don't really understand how the default budget could include positions that were not in last year's budget. And I am not an expert on calculating a default budget, but it seems illogical that if you didn't have somebody on the payroll the year before, that they shouldn't, their salary shouldn't be in the default budget for next year. And that was specifically about a full-time custodian case, but
Who went from part-time.
who went from part-time to full-time, and also included benefits at that time. But that was my question, and I was assured by the administration that it was properly calculated, but I still don't understand how that happens. Any other questions? Would anybody like to make a motion to
I make a motion to accept Article 2
Article 2?
as written.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Okay, Article 3. Shall the voters of the Madison School District adopt a school administrative unit budget of $1,331,961 for the 2023-2024 school year, in which $467,389 is assigned to the school budget of this district. The school board recommends this appropriation 310, and I assume the 1 is an abstention, right?
Then it
So-
should be 301.
No, I think the.
One is against.
One is
One was
against.
against. Correct.
One was
Okay,
against,
I just
yeah.
wanted to make sure.
Not an abstention.
I'm sorry,
Or-
okay,
Yeah.
I got it, that's get it clear. And so, any discussion about this particular item, I would just, for the knowledge, the reason there's been such a large increase from the prior year of over $90,000 is because the SAU has decided to run a preschool program through their thing. And now, currently, the Madison school has a preschool program, which is funded through the out-of-district tuitions.
But
We
We
right?
don't
haven't
have
since
a
Well,
2020.
We fund it, I'm not, I want to just be careful.
Individual children we fund, not a program.
Well, we provide preschool
Correct.
through outside things, we pay for it. That's what we're talking about, and I understand the rough number is about $83,000 at the current time. So this explains the large increase. Unfortunately, or however you look at it, it is still in the budget for the school committee because unless this article is passed, we would still need to fund that program. And so if this article is passed, presumably some of that $83,000 would be available for either other use by the school or come back to the town.
Do you know,
So it's
Yes.
in both places.
I
There's 83.
believe the top of the next page is also
Yeah.
part of the article.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't finish that to
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Well, no,
So
they
it's just the budget.
they put the budget committee, does not, and the school committee should be at the bottom,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. I was gonna
Go
say,
ahead.
That placement of recommendation or not recommendation is in the correct place.
It is.
It is, because it is before the default part of the question.
Okay. And just to read it for everybody.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
thanks.
was gonna say, Mr. Morrow looks very confused at the moment.
So the 83,000 is funded now, and what you just said was if the 90,000 goes in, that the 83,000 will, what? You said
The
either return to the
83,000
town or used for the school.
The
That
83,000
doesn't make sense.
It's really up to the school committee.
But you're giving them $90,000 more to replace that 83,000.
We are, if the town passes this, we are giving them 91,000, and in that 91,000 is the funding for a preschool program. If that passes, then there will be $83,000 extra in their budget, which is entirely up to the school committee as to how they use that. And if it turns out that it's possible that some of the parents now that have their children in this preschool program, which is a 2-year program, may not want to take their child out of that program and therefore may want to have the second year of that preschool program continue, and they will not participate with the new preschool program that the SAU district's offering. So some of that money may be used for those parents if they so choose. If any other money comes back into the budget of the school committee, and if it is not expended for any other cause, it could conceivably come back to the town.
My only other question, and I think preschool is excellent, but has the school board ever returned money to the town?
Yes, they
Yes,
do, every year,
Okay.
every year.
Because that was asked.
If they have a surplus,
Right.
Yeah.
they can return it, or they can, as some other articles have said, they can use a surplus to fund something else.
Okay,
Uh,
that's fine.
Mr. Kern, approximately how many students are currently enrolled in that $83,000 program? Do you know?
Off the top of my head, I don't have that, so I don't want to throw it out. I want to think it was 8 to 12, but I'm not positive.
I thought it was a higher number, but
I can get an answer for you in
sorry.
short time.
So-
No.
That's okay. We never thought to
Kick me off
ask
the
that
committee.
previously, or I think we did, maybe. But also know that the $467,000, which includes
8.
eight, okay, so we're currently paying $83,000 for 8 students. Recognize some of those students may have special needs, which may be why, because they're early identified
That
as
is
some
why.
level, for intervention.
So all 8 would be identified?
All 8 are. So
Correct.
those individuals still would require that money in order to support their educational needs early on. This program, the one that they're advocating for the 200, so in total, the program is $250,000. The 91 is just Madison's share of that.
Correct. And our hopes is that those children would come to our program.
Right. We requested, and they were, the superintendent, Mr. Whalen, is he Dr. Whalen?
Yeah,
Thank you.
yes.
Dr. Whalen did not have with him at the meeting all of the information. We were asking about cost-benefit analysis, how many students does it require to sort of break even? And that there is a meeting set, I believe, I don't know what the date is.
29th.
The 29th,
Yes.
for them to, in a public meeting, discuss all of this information with the townspeople to make them aware as to what that $250,000 would be paying for. Obviously, there's gonna be some level of infrastructure changes. There's additional teachers and instructors and, any of the other things. Some of that is a recurring cost, but not all of it. Not, the entire 250 is not a recurring cost. Neither is the 91 a recurring
Right.
cost, but some portion of it will be.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's a good job.
All right.
So please come to the informational meeting as well.
Right. So, and I did not read the last of that, and I'll do it just for the record. This year's adjusted budget of $1,055,505 with $369,275 assigned to the school district budget, that's Madison, will be adopted if the article does not receive a majority vote of all the district voters voting in this administrative unit. So, any further discussion? I think it's important to note what Sharon just said. We don't know what the continuing costs of this program will be, and whether its success will be. But in any event,
They seem to think it's more efficient, though,
they think it's
go-
potentially more efficient, and it is likely that the program would actually be happening in Madison.
And I
as one of
believe
the
that
preschool, which would be a convenience to Madison parents, I would think.
they
Go ahead.
also,
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, also believe that there would be revenue source coming
And
into
potential
town.
revenue
Yeah.
for said program, coming in to Madison from the SAU. So out of our 91,000 that we'd be paying, we'd be receiving something back to cover administrative costs,
Infrastructure, utilities.
Right.
toilet paper, things like that, and use of our, art teacher, gym teacher, music teacher, things like that. So our, all of those specials would be utilized. So there would be some monies coming back to the town of Madison.
And next year, this line item would disappear in the current school budget. Correct.
The 83,000.
The amount in which we could remove for students, there could still potentially be a parent or family
I thought it was a 2-year program.
It is a 2-year program, but there could potentially still be a parent or family that our program doesn't fit
Okay.
the specialty needs of
It would
that.
be a reduced line item, probably.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion or questions?
Yeah, I got a question.
Sure.
Can you explain to us why but a school committee member voted against it? You don't, the reason?
There are 3 of us in the room here, and it wasn't any one of the 3 of us. So I can't answer for that person at this time.
Okay, but you must have discussed it. You must have get some sort of a feeling as to why that was like that.
That can be asked at the
Ask at the
deliberative session.
deliberative session, please, of that person.
Yeah.
Okay?
Ready to vote?
All right. Somebody like to make a motion to accept this article as written? Yes. Joe Dane?
Second.
Okay.
Point of
All-
order,
Yeah.
Yes.
should you not be, instead of accepting, recommending or not recommending?
Oh, okay, recommending this article? Yep. That is the word. Okay, second. All in favor? Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 in favor, all opposed?
Am I the only one opposed?
And
Put that in.
are you, and one abstention?
I'll abstain.
You have to say why you're
Why?
abstaining.
Oh, go ahead.
I am abstaining because of the question I just asked. Why did one board member vote against it, and I'd like to know why.
Before we vote.
Yes.
I agree. So maybe if my vote should be an abstain as opposed to a
You want
vote
to change your
against.
vote to an
Yes,
abstention?
please.
Okay, so it's 4 in favor and 2 abstentions. Okay. Article 4, to see if the Madison School District will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $30,000 to be placed in the previously established Special Education Capital Reserve Fund. The school board recommends this appropriation 4-0, no abstentions. The Budget Committee is now discussing this article. This is a pretty standard appropriation that's been made from years to years, and
And Jim, as I asked at the school committee meeting, what's the current amount?
I don't have it with me, I believe it was $180,000 roughly.
Okay,
I think I have it.
and we have a goal, I believe.
200.
The current amount is $183,807, Special Ed Capital Reserve Fund.
Within the margin of error.
And there's a possibility, you said that you might have to dip into that a little this year, depending on many variables.
Correct.
So this 30,000 would bring it over the 200,000, but with having to dip into it,
It could bring us.
it could bring it back down.
If there's no further discussion, I'll accept a motion to recommend.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
So it's unanimous. Article 5, to see if the Madison School District will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be placed in the previously established Building Capital Reserve Fund. The school board recommends this appropriation 4-0. It's open for discussion. Well, I would say, I feel that we haven't done as good a job of this. The CIP and the capital issues, we have a new financial person this year, and we've gone through a couple of versions of this. And I don't think I never feel that we've had enough discussion of this and understanding all the moving parts. But the last version that we talked about and was at the public meeting,
January 8th.
January 8th, I added all the annual costs for the first year, and it comes out to be about $157,000 of annual costs for the capital campaign, capital plan. And one of the costs, I'm not quite sure, the HVAC system is being funded by some funds, the ESSER funds and everything like that. So why is that in our capital campaign, capital fund, since it's receiving funding from another source?
Because not all of the funding to finish the project is available in the ESSER 3 grant. So there's about $99,000 of the ESSER, of a deficiency from the ESSER 3 grant.
Right. If there's 99,000, but it's listed as an annual cost of 19,000, and that's the total annual cost, so that means we're not responsible for an annual cost of $19,000. Am I understanding that correct?
Not a continued cost, correct.
Right, but she has it going across. Anyway, there's a lot of questions here, and I wish, I feel bad about this. I wish we had had more time and had better discussion of this, because every year I come to the end of the year and I realize this is sort of something that's at the end of our discussions or work with the school board. Any event, if you look, if we take that number that Heather Sherwood gave us, that we need to really come up with $157,000 a year to fund all these capital investments, this $50,000 number and the $50,000 coming up in the next article are
Both needed.
certainly needed. Yeah. Anyway, any further discussion?
I have asked previously, and thank you very much for putting priorities on these, but I really still feel like just a 1, 2, or 3 doesn't actually portray the real priority of certain items. I don't think everything can be a 1, 2, or 3. I think I was hoping and have been, I thought I was asking, and if I wasn't clear, then I need to be clearer, that really what I'm asking for is sort of each group of these to have its own individual priority. Like the heating, HVAC might be 1, but within it I look at it, I see 1s and 2s and 3s. There may be pieces, correct, but the overall priority of replacing the HVAC system versus the roof versus paving versus, the water supply, I think it would help taxpayers and us as a committee to understand where the real needs are and where the crisis pieces might be from an infrastructure standpoint that haven't been taken care of and need to be, and what's sort of imminent and what, well, it's critical to do it, but it's not critical to do it this year. It's critical to do it within the next 3 years. We have to start, otherwise, costs go up, yada, yada, yada. So maybe there's a way to sit down and talk about this to figure out how to really take a look at these priorities to give us an idea.
So I just put on my notes, just so you know, maybe a work session beginning in May with the budget committee to work on this as moving forward. And to go to the 1, 2s, and 3s, what's hard is, a lot of the building has been taken care of already. And to call a heating system 1 when it's 25 years old is, it could go, it may not, but if it does, we're gonna have to. So I wanna make sure we have funds available.
Right.
Any further discussion?
No, I would just like to add on a slightly, the same topic, but with the town, is that the town, we've made some progress on that, but the selectmen really need to get together or appoint a committee or something that really fleshes it out in greater detail than it is right now. I think we have all the big items, but there are a lot of small items that can add up, and we really want to sort of keep things, it's also sort of a checklist of what's going to be what we think is going to be necessary in the future. And some items, if they're way out there, you just put them down on the bottom and say, hey, this is something we have to remember is there, but we're not going to deal with it in this particular CIP. So you get a better handle, but we've got the big items, but we need to go down another layer in that. And that's not for this year's budget, but that is certainly for next year's, I would say.
Okay, do we have a motion to recommend Article 5? Joe Dane,
Second?
second. And Rogerson, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous, 7-0. Article 6, to see if the Madison School District will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000, up to $50,000, to be placed in the previously established Building Capital Reserve Fund, with such amount to be funded from the June 30th unreserved fund balance. The
If
school,
they're in.
right. School Board recommends this appropriation 4-0.
So if there's a surplus, they're saying that the first $50,000 of that surplus, they'd like to put it right there. If there's no surplus, that's not funded.
And if there's a $70,000 surplus, only 20 comes back to the town.
That would be
Or
correct.
maybe come back to the town.
Depending on whether the town needs extra money for special education or whatever else might show up that they're not anticipating.
So then technically, should both of these articles pass, you'll actually be, if it's available, putting $100,000 back into the capital reserve fund.
50 up to 100.
Right.
Any further discussion? Do we have a motion to recommend Article 6?
So moved.
Second.
Second, okay. McAllister and Schilling. All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. Article 7, to see if the Madison School District will vote to establish the Madison Corner Schoolhouse Capital Reserve Fund and to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be placed in this fund. Further, to name the Madison School Board as agents to expend this said fund. The school board recommended this 4-0. Please note that there's another article here which we will not be voting on since it does not have any money, but it relates to the Madison Corner Schoolhouse, and that follows. And it was an article, a warrant article by petition. So I'll read that after this, but we won't be voting on that one. So is there any discussion about this particular article? Article 7, $50,000 for the Madison Madison Corner Schoolhouse Capital Reserve Fund. Yes, sir.
There was some discussion at the last meeting about whether the school board should do that or whether it should come back to a vote for the
town.
And I believe at the next meeting we have, come on, Ned, deliberative session. You can't change any of the wording. So this is set in stone at this point, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Is it-
Yeah,
is that really true?
I don't,
The only
I don't
thing-
believe the intent of the article can change.
Okay. The only thing you can change at the deliberative session is the money. You cannot change any of the wording in the articles.
Correct.
That's why a town meeting, once again, is a nicer way of governing than deliberative sessions.
No, I believe that this money is definitely needed. We have a lead paint contamination issue at the current building, and whether the town votes to maintain the building, tear it down, whatever, we still have
Still need the money.
to abate the lead, mitigate that problem. You know, it's sitting right out in front of the school, and I think, what was the plan, Jim, to put at least a fence and,
So put a fence up, there's the lead leach of roughly 5 feet. So inside of the 5-foot radius into the soil of the land there. And that was tested back.
so
in the spring.
this funding would help pay to
Would be available.
would be available to
Isn't
help
that,
fix the lead problem.
aren't you putting that fence in now with the money you have now?
Yes.
All right, so this is money beyond that.
Well, to deal with the problem, the fence is to eliminate kids from getting
Right.
into the area of the
Yeah,
problem.
but to actually clean up the lead, that's what we discussed at the school board meeting, that's right.
And as I understand it, the actual cost to do this will be $100,000, not 50, to just do the abatement.
140.
So, the numbers I had at that point were, if we were to tear the building down and demolish it, the cost could be upwards of $100,000. I got more numbers this past week, that, I guess I'm the only one in the room who has them right now, but it's roughly about $50,000 to tear down the building, remove everything from the property, regrade the soil and land, pull all, everything out. So it'd be about $50,000. So it would be about what this warrant article is.
Jim, would that remove the lead issue from in front of the school?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
And remove the fence.
Yeah,
Yes.
And then there was additional, they had some preliminary numbers, I believe, to repair it as well. But those were much more
Much higher.
vaguer.
Yes. 400,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that might be.
Right, absolutely.
And who's-
Depend,
who's doing the grant applications for that? Is anyone right now?
So the committee that is working on the Madison Corner Schoolhouse, there is a grant writer, a teacher at the school who does a lot of grant writing. And there are some other people who have offered to help write grants as well.
And is the Historical Commission involved in this at all?
The Historical Society, there is a member of the Historical Society on the committee, and the Historical Society has been approached to help with said
Thank you.
project.
The problem I have with this article is it throws $50,000 into this capital reserve fund, but the town doesn't know whether you're gonna tear the building down or you're gonna fix the building. And then it leaves the use of this money to the school committee. And I see Article 8, which is coming up, which is an article that's by petition, that would have the town decide whether they're going to tear the building down or they're going to fix the building up. And in order for the town to make a logical decision about this, I think we have to decide first what we're doing with the building. Then we need to have some real numbers if we're going to fix the building, not just a rough estimate, and then some idea of what the purpose of the building is going to be if it's fixed. So there's a lot of moving parts here that I don't think, if I'm a citizen of the town and I'm trying to vote on this, I don't know what I'm really voting for. I'm voting to give you $50,000 to put in a fund, but I don't know what it's going to be used for. Is it going to be used to tear down the building, or is it going to be used to add to a fund that we're going to use later on to rebuild the building? So I just find this article, I think we need to ask the town, what do you want to do with this building? And once we have that, then we can say, how much money do you want to spend to tear it down, or how much money are you willing to spend to fix it up?
50,000 would be required either way.
That-
50,000 would be required either way.
Right, but we're giving $50,000 to the school committee, and now they can decide, well, they're the ones that can expend from this fund.
So the school board would be agents to expend the fund for the purpose of that building only.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So the original estimate was $100,000 to possibly knock it down. So when I met at the committee level with the people looking to save the building, and we had a number of $400,000 to redo the whole building. I said, okay, so if it's gonna cost $100,000 to the town, or if it's gonna cost $100,000 to tear it down, obviously, we're not gonna fundraise money to tear it down. So why don't I ask the board to put up a warrant article for $100,000? What I did is split that into 2 years. And then that would be the town's share of the money. Then if we're gonna refurbish the building, another $300,000 would come from fundraising and or grant writing. So that's why, and to have the boards as agents to expend, which is the same way as it is on the building capital reserve and the special ed capital reserve. What we always do before we even expend those monies is have a public hearing. So if the $50,000 passes for the capital reserve fund for that, and the town says in the next warrant article, tear it down or surplus it and get rid of it, we would hold a public hearing to do that, but we'd have the money available in the beginning of next, or the summer, to have it removed and taken care of. Rather than waiting until next February, so February of 2025, or March of 2025 vote, to be able to then have the money approved for July. Because remember, our budget's
July 1
6
to
months
June
out,
30.
we're July 1 to June 30.
I understand the need to put a fence around it immediately, which you're going to do.
Yes.
I think I also asked, is the roof good? And my understanding is the roof's good. So we're not talking about the building deteriorating in the next year, really. You're gonna have the fence around it to protect it from the lead, and the good roof means that the building will probably still be there next year too. So really what we're talking about is timing purely. Do you want to get rid of it sooner if you get rid of it, or get rid of it a year later if the town decides that that's what they want to do? So it's really timing. That building's been there for a while.
Can we just decide to get rid of a building that's on the state and federal registry of historic places?
Yes, we
You
can.
can?
So as long as the historical property is not located in a historical district, we can do that.
So
I'm sure the lead's not getting any less though. It's like, you know, it's not like,
It's 10 feet, not 5. I
Right.
apologize.
it just.
And it's from
But we
the roof, from
we
the
ha-
roof jet.
We had that discussion too during the session in the beginning of the month, and asked that question as to if we were to wait and do this, let the town basically take Article 7 out, let them vote on what's now Article 8, and we get the decision from the town if they decide to tear it down and get rid of it, and then we don't have any money to do that until the next year. The increase in the lead in the ground around it was not going to be so significant that it caused anybody's health to be at risk. With the fence there, it's keeping students, people, children, everybody, pets, away from that area, that ground, so they're protected. The increase is not going to be so substantial as to pose an imminent health danger to anyone, was the answer we got. Is that not correct, or is that correct? Okay, so, to Ned's point of waiting the year, the risk to the public health is what I'm looking at because is not going to increase significantly. And then it does give us the opportunity, gives the town the opportunity to make the decision one way or another as to what they want to do with even the preliminary, because you're going to get asked the question, well, what if we wanted to keep it? How much would it cost to keep? And you're going to still need to have some of those estimates at least to have the discussion on Article 8. But it would give you a more definitive answer in a more definitive direction instead of trying to go in 2 or 3 different directions at one time.
Can I chime in on that?
Sure.
North Conway Scenic Railroad is creating a small village where the train turns around in Conway. They've already collected one building they're gonna remodel. They've picked up at no charge the old upholstery building that was behind. That is there.
Library.
Maybe not a bad idea to contact them and they could take it away. It'll serve 2 purposes. Number one, will get rid of your building, get rid of your lead, and yet the building will not be destroyed. It won't say the Madison Schoolhouse. He's looking to build a small village there, so that when the train stops.
That's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
John, if you read the next warrant article, the by-petition warrant article, it is to surplus the building, which would allow us to give it away. So give it away or demolish it.
Yeah, and he paid to move this other building.
Yep,
The people they didn't make any money on it. They just get rid of it.
correct.
And he picked it up.
Brought it to the new place.
Mhm.
Okay.
And couldn't the town name an area around that building a historic district?
I don't know what he said. What, you mean what's here?
Right there, right there. 10 feet around that building becomes an historic district, and then the building is saved.
That I can't tell you. Although I think if you leave it up to the people,
No.
they won't destroy it.
Right.
Because they didn't destroy this.
In regard to this article, one way or
And
another,
this was
we
really
need to put
expensive,
money
that's the building, a new building.
against, right? Whether we surplus the building, tear it down, redo it. We still need over a 2-year period or so to put some money in there.
Well, it says.
Should we start this year with that $50,000? I think we should,
Yes.
yes.
I disagree because I don't like the way the article is written and I don't like the sequence that it appears in. I think we're giving the school board $50,000 and
To
we
go on
haven't,
vacation?
and we haven't decided, I'm speaking now.
I know.
We haven't decided what we're going to do with the building, and we haven't given the town the opportunity to weigh in on it. And that's the logic for me. That's the first thing to decide, and there's no immediate rush to fund this, because I think as a taxpayer, people should know this $50,000 is going to tear down the building, or this $50,000 is going to refurbish the building, and they should know that.
You know,
Yes, sir.
just to look in the wording of Article 8, if it should pass, it becomes surplus and must be removed from the school district property by demolition or sale. So if that passes, then it's not being repaired or staying on the school grounds, correct?
Correct.
That's correct.
So you're back to your 50,000 just to, or if somebody will do it at their expense.
Again, it's timing though, it's timing.
Right, no, absolutely.
So you could say, I'm not gonna put the money in this year.
Absolutely.
I'll wait to see what this does.
Right.
We can get better estimates for what, and we say it's gonna cost, you said $400,000. I have no idea what you're gonna put inside that little building. You're gonna put partitions, or are you just gonna leave it as an open space, which would reduce the cost dramatically as far as refurbishing it? Probably needs a new furnace, probably needs roof's good now, but probably needs a new roof in the future. I just don't know what you're doing, and I guess that's what gets me.
Most of the cost is in the lead abatement.
Yeah.
Sure.
So to knock the building down as it is right now,
Mhm.
if you bring it to rubble, from what I understand, the lead levels are so minimal, it could be considered construction debris. When you start taking the siding off that has the lead in it, or the inside pieces that have lead in it, then you have to do lead abatement, encapsulation, and wrap it up and to get rid of it. So if you knock it down as a whole, it's a little different than if you take it apart to fix it. And again, I'm not a contractor or building guy, so I'm just taking what I'm given for information.
Jim, have we gotten an expert opinion on this lead abatement and contamination? I mean, we're not experts, and I don't understand how the lead can leach into the ground or into groundwater, whatever, contaminate. You know, what is the timeline if we do delay a year or two? Does that, make the problem worse or better, or is this something we should address sooner rather than later? I guess that's my question.
I can forward you a copy of the
Yeah.
report, and I think it's on the school's website, but I'm not positive.
Say sooner.
But a copy of the report from the company that came
No,
out.
just, my perspective here, I'm trying to think of the kids around that building, the school buses are right there. Is there, we can't take a chance and, well, maybe it might not, leach over or run off, whatever. Has somebody who specializes in this looked at that?
Yes, they've looked at it.
All right.
And if we can get the railroad to take the building away, it shouldn't cost us anything.
Yeah.
And then you don't need
Well,
that 50K.
it shouldn't cost us anything to demolish the building, but it's
So
still
we
gonna
take the
cost
lead
us
out of
Yeah,
the
get
to
rid
deal
of
with
it.
the foundations and the
Right.
land.
But your
lead out of it.
article says, with removal of the building from the Madison
No.
School District property, either through demolition or sale, to include lead abatement. So in your Article 8,
That's not their
But
article.
article, that's
our
not their article, and we're not talking about that article right now. Yes, Mike?
The only thing I would say, you get stuff on camera, it creates concerns. The topography and everything, the way the drainage is set up around the new building, the new school, with the driveway, the school building, everything, this little red schoolhouse is sitting in a hole.
Okay.
And there's drainage structures around it to remove groundwater. I'm not an expert on lead either, but there's no chance whatsoever that lead is gonna migrate from that red schoolhouse
back
to the school in any way, shape, or form.
No, that's what I'm
The only way you,
just
the
concerned.
kids could get the lead off it is to take a knife and go scrape it off the side.
Okay,
That's the
no,
only way.
I know,
Or
but
they
it's
dig in the
concerning.
soil, right, or.
Okay.
Okay, no,
Right,
that's
yeah.
why I was asking, I don't understand the
Okay.
extent of the issue.
All right, unless there's more urgent discussion on this, can we move on to have a recommendation to, have a motion to recommend Article 7?
I recommend.
Do you recommend, is there a second? There's a second, okay. All in favor? There are 3 in favor. All opposed? There are 4 opposed. In Article 8, we don't vote on, but I will read for the audience. It's submitted by petition to instruct the Madison District School, to instruct the Madison School District to declare the building known as the Madison Corner Schoolhouse as surplus, and follow through with removal of the building from the Madison School District property, either through demolition or sale, to include lead abatement from the area. So there's no dollar advice with that, so that's it. So that finishes our item on the school warrant articles. Then we have employee wage reports, which we requested, and we have some data submitted. And I open that for discussion. Oh, here, sorry. And as an introduction to this discussion, the reason this came up is as we were going through the budget, we discovered a position in the Department of Public Works that was a part-time salaried position for $52,000, which was unusual since we've never seen a part-time salaried position, and it began discussion of what that encompassed and at our last meeting. So we wanted to see a complete analysis, so.
I think it was more that it was a part-time position when every other position was an hourly position in that area. It wasn't that there might not be another part-time salaried position that is unique, more or less.
Right.
For various reasons.
In that position, that person is now changed to the director of the DPW, salaried at $72,000 a year. Are they still part-time?
Nope, like I said.
John, are they still part-time?
On paper, they are part-time. Salary means you work until you get your job done.
So, and we're not paying into the New Hampshire retirement system for that employee, so they're still part-time?
That's why it's part-time.
Okay, so they're part-time at
And there's no
72.
medical benefits involved.
Understood. So they're part-time at $72,000 a year. They're not paying into New Hampshire retirement system because they're retired. So they're capped to 26 hours a week.
I'm gonna say it again. The person works whatever the job demands. We did it with the police chief a few years ago, and he rebuilt our police department for us. He was a retired state trooper, came here on a part-time salary position, which is, doesn't run into any problems with retirement.
But the town is required to report hours worked by any part-time retiree. So the town is required to report that this employee is working no more than 1,352 hours per year.
Yep,
Okay, which puts this person at $52 an hour? If they're working a full 26.
yeah. I didn't do the math, but I'll agree with you.
Can I ask a question about the position? And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that when we were a year ago discussing the Department of Public Works and the previous director of DPW left, that the discussion was that Justin Chick would be the foreman and we didn't need a director of DPW.
Things change.
Was this position advertised?
What's that?
Was the position advertised?
No.
So I guess I'll take the things changed. Can you tell us what has changed in order to recommend and need a director with, and that I'm aware of? I don't know that I've seen any discussion during the selectmen's meetings to say that things have changed and we need a DPW director. I'm just asking because we were public, the selectmen were public with saying, in order to save money, we were getting rid of the director of DPW position. Now we've added it back into the budget.
I understand it. 2 DPW heads ago,
I don't even know who that is. 2 ago.
2 ago. Actual DPW head. And then we went from that position of that was about $139,000 all in. He resigned. We put a foreman in place to see if that would work. It did to a degree, but trying to be careful. Because we're talking about people here. The department needs a leader. Someone who can lead. You know that. And I believe the person we have is a far better leader than we previously had. Not taking anything away from that person that was sort of, it's just difficult to do without
I
without
understand.
stepping on someone's toes
So,
or
let me-
making it very uncomfortable for someone to work.
Right, let me ask this. So what we were talking about is, and I believe this was part of the discussion back when we removed the director of DPW
He
position.
resigned.
No, not the director person, the position. When we removed the position from the consideration, so to speak, one of the conversations was, how are we going to do this? And the discussion was that the foreman position would be very, very sort of technical heavy, that individual would be able to run the department from especially a technical standpoint. What you're telling me is that through trial and error and through the last year, we've discovered that while the skills are heavy in the equipment, logistics, mechanical piece of it, perhaps the administrative piece of it is not quite as experienced and you need more?
That would describe it.
Okay. Is that need, was it ever discussed or advertised for anybody to apply to this? Because it looks to me like we just sort of added it back in. Poof, there it
Well,
is.
we did to whatever the number is,
72,000?
72,000. We're not gonna find anyone to do that job for $72,000 a year.
We don't know because we didn't ever ask.
Open up the paper.
Okay, well, regardless, we now have a part-time director of DPW
Yes.
making $72,000. When you look at the New Hampshire requirement for, because there is no contribution to the New Hampshire retirement system, that individual is making substantially more in an hourly rate than I believe is, when you look at everybody else in the department, and the individual that you were counting on originally to be the head, basically the head, ostensibly the head, the foreman, there's a significant disparity between those two positions. And I'm just asking to explain why such a disparity.
In wage or position?
Both.
Well, if we went outside the town to get, well, we did. I don't know when it happened, 3 or 4 years ago. That position was well over $100,000,
All in is what you're saying.
all in. And this one is all in for 72.
77, actually.
So, what was it, with FICA?
72 salary and the FICA.
Okay,
Yeah.
everybody's got FICA. I think it's a bargain. When we hired a police chief here who had, I think, 25 years of experience, and he came in and said, I will take care of everything that needs to be taken care of. And built as a police department. Same idea as what we're doing with this person. Same idea.
Well, John, the issue is, I don't think anybody's questioning your decision that you feel that you need this position, that you need somebody to be
We
director
need
of
an
DPW.
administrative head who is also a working
right.
position.
Right, but I think the question that's been raised is why is there this unique compensation for this position? And that is what's raised the thing. And I have to say, I regret that that people weren't more transparent earlier about this, because when you're not, it always raises questions about why certain arrangements are made and what that means. So it still is an unusual position, and I think there are probably some reasons why this was decided, and they're not out here in public at this point. So that's what this committee looks at things, and when they see something that stands out as unusual, we bring it up.
Okay.
And this is why we've reached this point. And I really regret that comments were made that this is not in our purview to look and ask questions about this. And I think it's really up to the taxpayers that will make decisions about whether or not appropriate decisions have been made about positions.
Also in the non-public minutes, it says this person asked to be made DPW director.
What was that?
In the non-public minutes where this person was hired or appointed,
Yeah.
it said they asked to be made DPW director.
I haven't seen the minutes, so I don't know why the wording was done that way. But we had.
Well, hopefully they accurately reflect what happened.
What's that?
Hopefully they accurately reflect what happened. I'm sure that they did.
Yeah, they did.
I don't doubt they didn't. I don't doubt that they did.
I mean, you were probably right in saying that if you went outside, you could not find someone to do this.
I can almost guarantee that.
But
You
Trent,
go to Conway and see what they get for their
and I don't
highway
disagree.
foreman.
And I don't disagree with you. I think what we're saying is if it had been more transparent, if you'd advertised for the position knowing that you wouldn't get someone for it, then you have a better leg to stand on to say, all right, we've got someone who'll do this job.
And
But at least it would have been public.
you would still get at least one person, the person that you hired.
Yeah, right.
I think what we're looking at is, just from a process standpoint and from a parity standpoint with all the employees in the town, or for the town of Madison, that there's a process that's repeatable, reliable, sustainable, and should anything ever get questioned, I mean, we're doing it here, but should anything ever get questioned legally, then you can point to the actual process and that it's followed and followed consistently from position to position to position to position. Now, I get that the selectmen have the ability to kind of do things the way that they see is required in order to continue the town's functions in a reasonable manner. And I'm not trying to indicate that anything that you've done is illegal or unethical or any of those kinds of things. I'm just saying that from a visibility standpoint, when you start to pull open the minutes of meetings and use them, because we do. I look at the meetings of the minutes to use them to compare them to what we're doing, what the impact on the taxpayer is, then I think it's in the selectmen's best interest to make sure that those processes are all the same from individual to individual and position to position. And it does bear the question that when we go public as a town and say we don't need this position anymore, and then all of a sudden it pops up on a...
Well, it wasn't really all of a sudden.
Well, not-
This has gone over a few years.
Did we not appoint the foreman just last summer? Not this summer 23, summer of 2022?
Well, he was foreman under the previous,
Correct.
he didn't go anywhere.
No, but
He was lateral.
but it was an overt action to keep it remain that way and not replace the director of DPW.
Right.
But now all of a sudden we have a director of DPW on the rolls, and so
Okay.
that begs the question. I guess the question is, how did that happen? People will ask. Sharon asked, how did that happen?
Okay.
So, anyway.
All right, do we have
I just
any?
want to say one thing.
Sure, go ahead.
I've been doing this 23 years, coming to an end. I have never done anything to hurt this town. I am a fiscal conservative. If I can find a way to get a job done for less money, that was my background. I managed 80 drugstores, and I just looked at the bottom line. And if I can get a job done by a manager, and that can save me 40%, I don't care if he's stands in the corner spitting nickels as long as the job gets done.
At the
So I just
expense
want
of
to make that very
transparency, though.
clear. What's that?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, go ahead.
So I just want to make something clear. It seems like it's becoming an adversarial position that we're taking, and I don't intend to hear it. I have always sat with other board members, and we've always done what is in the best interest of this town. And over the years, we've turned in pretty steady growth, but not exorbitant growth. We do the best we can with what we got. And when we have to turn money back at the end of the year, we turn money back at the end of the year, we don't burn it.
Then why the lack of transparency?
Right.
Let's just clear one thing up. We're not accusing anybody of anything that is unethical at this point. We want to be transparent about what happened. The less people are clear and open about it, the more people ask questions. So I think as a town, we need to be as open as possible about what's happening and not make statements like, it's not in your purview to ask these questions or get this information. So I would like to move on from this unless anybody has another strong...
I have one other question.
Sure.
Had nothing to do with what we just talked about. The NHRS contributions, is that made as a percentage of an employee's salary? Then my question is, you've got a person here who's making 72K and putting in 24K to NHRS, and another person making 72K who put in 12,000.
Can you tell
Why is it double?
Can you tell me who you're
Well,
talking about?
I was gonna say, before we do that, there are some, if you go into the New Hampshire retirement system, there are some prescribed contributions. And the contribution for police and fire is13%. It's over 30% for each of those, whereas it's only 13.5% for an employee, or sorry, yeah, 13.85% for employees. So if you look at groups 1, employees fall into that, it's 13.85%, and group 2 for police and fire, the police is 31.28, but it looks like Chief Brooks, they're not putting, there's no contribution for you at all on that part.
All right, so I will move ahead then.
But bringing that into question
That's
though,
fine.
then I'm looking, when I go through and I start to calculate these NHRS numbers, is Dylan Eldridge a full-time or part-time highway technician? The calculation for him appears to only be 7.5% as opposed to the 13.5, and I don't know if that's maybe he was only a part-year employee, or maybe he's moving from part-time to full-time. I'm not 100% sure what's going on with him.
No, that's probably my error, because employees contribute 7%.
Oh, so that's his.
And when I used a spreadsheet that pulled all those numbers, and I was supposed to probably have changed that, so
Yeah, because I was looking at the last year, it was twice as much of a contribution.
Wait a minute.
Now, if you could just check that number for me, please.
That sounds reasonable.
All right, so
Moving on.
you stole my question, Karen.
Well, and the next one I looked at was Lieutenant Hayford.
There you go.
Yeah.
He's only showing an 11.7% contribution when it should be 31.28.
Oh, that's probably that. Yep, that's his personal contribution, is the 11%.
Okay,
All right,
so some of these might be from the wrong column there, the personal contributions as opposed to the towns. Okay.
Yes,
So-
when I pulled the information over, the persons, the employees' contribution was in that line, and I changed it, and I apologize, I
Yeah, no,
probably
no, give me that.
mismanaged the calculation.
I just want to make sure we're not under contributing for somebody we're supposed to be contributing.
No, because, yes, the numbers that we contribute per employee is nowhere to be pulled. I had to calculate it myself. That doesn't just pop out. The amount that the employee contributes
Pulls out.
is pulled out. I can pull that out in the report, but I can't pull out, I just do a number, a total for wages when I report to New Hampshire Retirement. So police lump sum wages, we pay 31.28% of that. When I pull out the employees, it's 11 point something, 4%.
Yeah, 13.85 for employees and then the 31.28. Can you do me a favor? Can you check the contribution levels from the town. I'm not picking on you, Chief. For Chief K and for Sergeant Martin, because it looks like what should be a 31.28% is a 33.9%
Well,
when you look at these numbers.
The amounts changed last July.
Yeah.
Yeah, so so it's a part, so so last year, there was a certain percentage for the first 6 months, and then a different percentage for the last 6 months, and next year, we have the same percentage that we had these last 6 months.
Right.
Is that?
Because I'm
could that
showing from
explain?
July 1st, 2023 to June 30th of 2025, that it's 31.25. So was it, did the
So this-
percentage go down
did.
from last year? Does anybody remember what it was? I
I
can
wanna
go
say
back and look it up.
it was 33% for, 33% and 14%, and it went down to like, or, no.
It's down to 31.28,
Yes.
from 33 to 31.28.
33 to 31, and
Wait, I just want to make sure that as we're doing these, that we're not either under or over paying into the New Hampshire retirement system.
Oh, well, no,
This
that's,
number for this now, right?
that's not the issue. Yes, I'd be paying,
If you
these
look at the
numbers are my
numbers.
numbers.
Right,
I didn't pull these from anywhere, so if there's an error, it's my mistake.
okay.
What we contribute to New Hampshire retirement is determined for me through our
Payroll system.
spreadsheets, all that, and I pay them how much
Right.
they're supposed to get, and I'm not.
So then
Okay.
the number for the lieutenant's NHRA is wrong,
For which year are you looking at?
for 2024,
Lieutenant Hayford?
yes.
Probably just a-
He's, the sergeant is getting 2.5 times what the lieutenant is getting.
So that's probably his personal.
That's what he said, it was his
Personal
personal.
I just want to make sure that that's
Yeah, that's what
the
it
case.
said, yeah, she's made a mistake with that.
Okay.
And did everyone, every salary wage whose total wages were higher than their salary, is that overtime or?
Is there someone particular you're talking about? I assume it's overtime. I'm not sure who you're talking about.
Police, so that would be, there are other things above salary, like detail and things like that.
Yep. Details, holiday pay, those all come into that.
Okay.
All right, that's good.
Okay,
Oh, and then it just didn't include all the positions and stipends and things like that?
I'm sorry?
It didn't include all the positions?
What didn't?
Stipends, the salary list?
It didn't?
no, it
I'm
didn't,
sorry.
in particular, we didn't see the fire warden and those stipends and things like that. They're small stipends.
Emergency manager.
Emergency manager, things like that. I don't think,
Oh.
I think we were generally happy with the amount of information we got, but I think, some comments were made that we're not really appreciating the employees, but I think in a sense, we would like to look at this, we want to make sure that employees are getting what they're supposed to get, and that they're being treated fairly and equally, and I think that was certainly something that we wanted to understand, and people are picking up things like the pensions don't make sense, but those are understandable mistakes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so anyway, I think it's always good for everybody to see this and understand what it is, and we have a lot of dedicated employees that work hard in this town to provide us the services that we need.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think I was called out in particular, so I just want to reiterate exactly that. We want to make sure everyone's being paid fairly.
Right. Okay, so let us move on to the 2004 draft budget discussion.
2024.
2024 draft.
We knew what you were.
Wow, step back in time.
We would save a lot of money if we discussed the 2004. No. Anyway, so I'm just going to start with the major drawdown and budget summary figures, which is this point here. And then if we want to, we can get into the details of detail, but this is a one-sheet thing. It says 2023 drawdown and 2024 budget summary figures through January 9th, 2024. And this is what's changed, and I'm going to just go through what's changed since the last budget that we saw
You got it on a piece of paper.
I know you do, but it doesn't necessarily include everything, because certain things actually went up. But we do have, I want to go through all the changes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right that Linda provided on another thing, 2,000 proposed budget changes, but it was based, I think I want to make sure we cover every item in there, but I appreciate what Linda put up there as well. We can go back and forth. So, as we start with the ambulance, this increased $17,127 from what we thought it was at the last budget meeting in December. Right. And then assessing went down $1,500, which was taken, I think, from the legal thing. So that was a change from December. All right. Another change for December was the DPW solid waste disposal. And that was dropped by $15,000. And John, I saw that, I think, and we can look at the detail, but that was a change in recycling costs.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? Are we doing less recycling, or what, what does that $15,000
Well,
represent?
some of those things are actually, might be sign work. It also is products that we bring over to EcoMaine, which handles our plastic, our paper, our cardboard. That's in recycling, as opposed to solid waste, which goes to
Right,
Sure.
right, but there are costs for us to send some of this material off to be recycled.
Right.
In the
But
past,
it's
it was,
considerably less than taking it,
right, but the budget number that you had for recycling back in December was $33,000, and now you've reduced it by 15,000. We've saved $15,000. How did we save that $15,000 in that recycling budget, or
Solid waste disposal budget.
the solid waste? But it was, if we go to the details, I think you'll see it's in the recycling. If everybody wants to take a look at the more detailed
Okay.
budget.
Yeah, there's actually a $20,000 in the recycling, but there was an increase of $5,000 in maintenance, so
Right,
overall it became a $15,000.
50,000, right. So, are we doing less? I mean, how do we save that money? How did you?
we've got a compactor that we didn't have a year ago. Before, if you remember, your plastic would be dumped into a large open container.
Right.
And then we would press it down and it would come back up again, and we press it down and come back up again. Now we don't haul, instead of hauling, well, in the summertime, we haul every other week, you're hauling plastic, a container full of plastic with no weight, taking it to EcoMaine. Now it goes into a compactor along with paper and cardboard, and we move it about every 3 weeks. So you're saving a lot of trip time, which is 3 hours round trip to Portland. So you're saving a lot of money by compressing the product.
So you think that's what your estimate will be for this year
Yeah.
because of those savings? Okay,
Yeah.
that was the question. All right,
While you're on that subject.
Sure.
There, Andy. We do collect fees for various things like bulky furniture, demolition waste, refrigerators, anything with Freon, electronics. In 2022, we collected $57,898 in fees. And this last year, we collected $68,537. Add to that another $6,262 for our metal recycling.
I have 6540.
What's that?
The drawdown that we have shows numbers through, I don't know when your numbers are through. These are through 19, shows 6540.
That
So
number
even
hadn't
better.
been updated. John has the correct number.
So we're actually at 6,200, not 6,500. Is that what you said?
Yeah, 62.
Oh, so I think your number's better,
Sorry.
right? Let's stick with yours.
So anyhow, those items right there amount to, although it goes into the general fund, we
74.
can't use it, but it merely cuts that budget in half. So I'm getting rubbish removed for very short money.
okay.
Okay,
All right, so under direct assistance, which is about a third of the way down, there was a $550 saving in welfare costs. That's a change from the prior budget of December. And under executive, which is about halfway down, you'll see executive, there was a change of decrease of 4,500. And if you want to look at that, that was basically a change in the office assistant salary, I believe. Is that right, Linda? Am I?
Yeah, I think it was office assistant, and I think the training line.
Training line was
Was
also down a
500.
little bit, yeah. 500 and 4,000, so, is that significantly impacting your ability to run the office, or is that?
Well, I anticipated that I don't anticipate the opportunity to hire anybody anytime soon. The $10,000 that was in there, I assumed would be an entire year, so it's not gonna be.
Oh, so that 10,000 was designed for a part-time assistant to help with office clerical type
And
things?
cover vacations and that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Oh, right, that's right, cover the
Um,
vacations and
yeah,
things. And
but
so
when-
you don't anticipate being able to do that the whole year, just,
Not at this point, I don't see, I don't have the opportunity to do that.
have we advertised for that position? Okay.
Okay, the next change that showed up was a little further down under general government buildings. There was a $2,000 decrease, and that was basically heating costs were down, so that was the change from December. Okay. Then the next major change was under personnel administration. And I believe that was about a $66,902 drop. Okay, and that was basically, and this was, I was a little bit confused about this because we had some very high medical and dental rates back in December, but those aren't what we're actually going to be paying. As Joe went over, we're down to 6% now.
Yeah, one thing, and I forgot to ask Linda when we discussed the insurance earlier. In 2023, we had 12 employees receiving medical benefits.
Correct.
In your 2024 budget, we now have 11.
Correct.
Did we lose somebody, and are we going to backfill that position to bring in additional insurance costs this year?
Well, the police redid their budget, and they explained that they won't have 4 full-time people. They're gonna work with 3 full-time and part-timers. So that took away.
We advertised for a position, didn't get filled with a full-time employee. So what we did is we are, dare I say it, bringing on a part-time person at 26 hours a week. And they are a full-time certified officer that they will be starting soon and filling a regular schedule of 26 hours a week to help us cover the gap. Since he's part-time, there will be no health costs associated with that, so.
Yeah, that was my question, is just if we were gonna bring on another full-time employee that would, bring our numbers back up.
Not this year.
Okay.
We don't anticipate it this year. There's going to be some other personnel changes coming within the police department that we'll find out here a little later, but we don't anticipate hiring somebody else this year.
Linda, the reason is I used your latest numbers at 2024 with 11 employees, for my projections. That's. I just want to make sure my numbers were accurate.
And traditionally, we always added a little bit extra to it for the anticipation of someone mid-year who had a life event that could change them.
Yeah.
I took that out too.
Okay.
Sorry.
And that, so in doing so, that created the $57,000 reduction?
Well, for the medical insurance line, but then I also was able to remove some from the police retirement line because if there's no full-time person, they wouldn't be paying into New Hampshire retirement.
Right.
Dental, same thing.
Okay.
A plan wouldn't have to be provided for a full-time employee.
And it also reduced the HRA FSA piece of it too, right?
Well, that didn't, I took that out. That number there covers the first half of the employee's deductible. And traditionally, for the last several years, we haven't gone anywhere over $5,000 a year to cover those. So I took, and I've been leaving it, I believe, at around 8, just to cover us, but I chopped a little bit more off, anticipating that our history shows that we won't go that high.
Okay. So that number, that line is intended to cover half of the deductible that the employee incurs in the plan.
Correct. The first half, and then the employee is responsible for the second half of the deductible.
So how much is the deductible?
I want to say it's 500 for a single plan, 1,000 for a double, and 1,500 for a family. It doesn't. But a few years ago, the selectmen went to a lesser expensive plan, but the deductibles went up. And even doing this, it still saved money. Going to the larger plan and still putting money away into the HRA line, it still saved the town a significant amount in our premiums that year.
Just out of curiosity, do the employees have any way of putting pre-tax dollars in to pay for medical expenses?
We offer an FSA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Up to
Thank you, that's all.
$1,500. Yep,
Wow, nice.
$1,500. The selectmen chose the number of 1,500. There's more available.
I was gonna say federally, I think you can
do a
Right.
higher
do
amount.
much higher.
But
amount.
as an employer, you're on the hook if someone signs up for FSA and they stay until February and then they leave. The employer is on the hook to fund the rest of that.
You have to fund it for the rest of the year.
So if they only paid $100 towards that 1,500, the town would be responsible for that.
Liable for the rest of it.
So
yeah.
they decided to leave it at a nominal number.
Okay, so that was a substantial number
Yeah.
under personnel administration. The planning board had an increase of $2,000 which went into their legal budget. The police department had a decrease of $16,726.
Is that due to the 2 part-time instead of a single full-time?
Correct, that's from funding a full-time person to a part-time position.
And then the rec department had a decrease in the salary of the rec director to $28,000, so that was a $2,000 change from December. And the total amount was $3,420,088 for the budget. All right, more questions, any more detail people want to go into that? I just wanted to do that summary so we could see what had changed since the last time we talked about this. Okay. All right. So if not, I would move on to the 2024 draft warrant articles. Let's see, where do I have those? I got school warrant articles.
Before we start these, did we use A, B, C, D in the past?
No, it will get changed in numbers, but I was trying not to confuse it, because numbers change.
You confused me.
Sorry.
I took 4. Oh, then A.
Oh, yeah.
And then also, before we get going much further, in the December version, there was an Article M, which was the Veterans Monument Fund. I don't see that, well, it's definitely not M, but I don't see it anywhere in these articles. Did that get dropped off?
Yes,
or-
it did. The selectmen took it off. They encumbered the money.
2 different subjects. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, no,
I'll let
go
you
ahead.
finish. No,
She answered your question correctly. They encumbered all the money to to take care of the whole project.
That wasn't the question. The question was that the original intent of that article, which we discussed, was twofold. One was to figure out how to fund the immediate requirements to fix the monument. The second was to establish a fund that when we were able to do an article to put, $500 in this year, $1,000 next year, so that going forward in the future, the monument would have a fund to draw funds from that the selectmen could approve in order to etch new names, fix anything that might get damaged, any of those kinds of things. And that, the last time when we were looking at Article M, that was the wording of it. It didn't have a necessarily, a large amount attached to it. It was only about $500. And I recognize that the selectmen, thank you very much, chose to fund the current requirement out of the current funds, but that doesn't address the going forward piece with that article.
Let me just be clear, you're saying there was an article that established an expendable trust, is that?
There was a proposed article.
Right,
Article M.
and that's not in the.
That's no longer in
there.
this, right.
But the funds for the current repair were encumbered, okay.
Right.
Let's just get it
Yes.
clear.
Yeah,
so everybody-
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So the answer I think you're getting is that the selectmen took that out.
Because those names are funded from the patriotic purposes line when they need to go on there.
Right, but they took out the expendable trust.
Right.
So that's the answer. Okay? That was their decision. Okay.
I guess I don't know when that decision was made, because I'm not aware of there being a discussion about removing the article.
I think it was the last meeting.
The last meeting. Okay. I'll go back and look at the
I think it was
minutes.
either the last one or the one before it.
Moving
It
on.
was discussed
Okay.
because at the same time, it was noted that the SLAM came before the board and asked for an expendable trust fund, and the board didn't put their expendable trust fund request up either.
Right, but the selectmen did approve an expendable trust fund for the Veterans Monument at the meeting that I was at. And then also, that's when they decided to fund the money for the current fixes. We were talking about the expendable trust for future
I
fixes.
don't
and-
recall that they approved it, but.
Well, I would presume they did because, well, I know they did because that's why it was in the December board, or the warrant articles.
Okay.
So, well, I don't know how to fix that.
Well, these are drafts.
Right.
Okay, and this is what we're voting on at this point. So I don't know how we're gonna.
Right, how do we vote on something that's not there?
That's right. We're not gonna vote on that, and you could bring it up at a selectmen's meeting that you would like to have an expendable trust. It could possibly be brought up at the town meeting.
I don't
think we can do it,
You can't
but-
add
can't
an
add it,
article at the
but,
town
yeah.
meeting, so.
But if you want to bring it up as a future thing to see,
There's always a
anyway.
petition too.
Yeah, it could be a petition article in the future. Okay, so we're going to go through the warrant articles here, and this is, what happens is this $3 million budget gets broken up into pieces, which always confuses me a little bit, but I did add them all up, because one year they didn't all add up, but they do add up to the total amount anyway. So, the ones we are interested in begin with Article A, because these are the dollar amounts. Article A, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum dollars, and it's broken up into these parts, which is exactly what we've been looking at in the spreadsheets that Linda's prepared for us and that we've discussed. Do we have any questions about Article A, Article B, and Article C, which are basically the total budget as we've been discussing just now? Okay. And we will be voting on these on February 8th in a joint meeting with the selectmen. They will vote, and we will subsequently vote on these articles at that time.
When is that meeting going to start? Time?
7 o'clock, I believe, is the usual time for those meetings to begin, and it'll be in the school auditorium. Okay. Okay, Article D is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $250,000 for paving and road improvements of town roads, including, but not up to limited to Mooney Hill Road, Allard Hill Road, and East Madison Road. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32-7, Chapter 6, and will not lapse until the funds have been exhausted with the completion of the project or by December 31st, 2029, whichever is sooner. I think this is a $50,000 increase from prior years. And we've talked about it before, the costs of blacktop and other things are going up. Yep, go ahead, Joe.
Just a quick question directly related, especially Mooney Hill. Chief Brooks, Michael, have you heard back from FEMA? Are we gonna get
That's
money
moved on.
for the storm repairs this past summer? You know,
We have, the July 18th event was an approved disaster. So we have all of those, we have, it's broken down into basically 5 projects. One standalone is obviously Goldie Hill.
yeah.
And I don't need the details, but
Yeah.
that has been an approved disaster. But it's hard to conceptualize because the weather was so terrible for pretty much all summer. But it's only specific windows of time. May 1st, when we had some substantial damage in Madison, the statewide threshold was not made, there was no disaster declaration, so. And once again, December 18th, we got some more substantial damage, we're still waiting a determination there. So the process is in, the wheels are in motion, we could get reimbursement for this July 16th event up to 75%.
No, that's good. Yeah, sorry to take that off track there, but since we were talking about road repairs and things, I just was curious if we were getting that money back
Yeah.
from the federal government.
There'll be another article about specific road repairs. Okay.
Moved on.
Yeah, so no further discussion about the usual road standard article. Article E is to see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to enter in a 7-year lease purchase agreement in the amount of $250,000 for the purpose of leasing a new solid waste truck for the Department of Public Works. The cost of the new truck is not specified at this time. So this is the truck that's used to haul our stuff, and it's reached its lifespan, and we're getting, this is what you think we need is a new truck at this time.
Right.
I-
We're gonna this is not gonna impact this year's budget. Is that correct, Linda?
If you use the trade-in as your first year payment, no.
Right.
The truck does have some residual value, or is a trade-in towards the new
We're
vehicle?
thinking around 35,000. And then we've got money in the solid waste line. What is it, ETF?
For equipment.
We've got $81,000. We can use some of that as part of the down payment, so it won't impact this year. It will start impacting the following year.
Yeah, it's $81,300, and, yeah. I think, I think we mentioned this in the prior meeting, there's interest, at least there was interest in this committee about some rough numbers as to, is this still cost effective for us to do our own hauling as opposed to?
I've been working with Dave on that, and we just got a new computer program, which just started. The last numbers we had when we were farming the work out to North Conway Incinerator was roughly $300 a trip they would charge us $300 a trip to get rid of the rubbish, haul it to Berlin, and return the container. we're now somewhere around the $200 range. This is a number of years later. We haven't got all the numbers ironed out. But, a lot of these things are, again, are offset by fees collected. Our bulky demo for the second half of December, all costs, all in, driver, fuel, everything, for the, this print is really small. So three trips of bulky waste, which is construction debris, furniture, mattresses. So it was 3 trips. All-in costs, including driver and time, was $1,240. Fees collected for the same period of time, $1,213. So we were off, and that's just a very small sample. We're gonna we'll expand it to get a full sample. But this is the first piece of information out of that new computer system, that works system.
Also, I believe the big red truck has been very expensive to repair. What was it, $60,000 or something?
And that truck has had
Yeah, it's pretty worn out.
It's got 660,000 miles on it. Not all of ours, we bought it used.
So you're,
Again, I was there when we
Downs.
approved it, but I don't like buying used equipment.
but you're not gonna have those repair costs with a new vehicle too, right? Which will help lower your costs.
Well, I still think, maybe I'm missing it, but I still think the question is, we used to pay, I think, Conway to take away the trash and everything like that. So I think when we present this to the town, we should have some idea about the cost savings, if there are cost savings, to do this ourselves, and this will justify to the town that we need to get this truck, because this is saving us money as opposed to just paying Conway to haul away the trash. So if we had numbers like this is what it would cost us on a yearly basis to haul away trash using Conway. This is what we estimate with a new truck, a driver, and the mileage and all these things. This is what we're doing right now, because I think we have to revisit these things every now and then to make sure that we've made the right decision in doing this ourselves, as opposed to hiring a subcontractor to haul the trash. So I think that would be, if we had some numbers for the meeting, this article, and also for us to, as a committee, saying, yeah, we're making a good decision by continuing to do what we're doing and spending and investing in a new truck. Any other discussion about that article?
No,
Okay.
I'm just wondering if there's even an estimate for that, because it just says the cost of the new DPW truck is, and it's blank. Is it in excess of $300,000? Is it $200,000?
Is this article you were talking about?
Article E.
Article E,
yes, John.
the
Yeah,
DPW
sorry.
truck.
Yeah, it just says the new DPW truck is, and dot, 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 dot.
Well, there'll have to be a number for us to vote on.
Absolutely.
Right.
Right, but I'm just
Oh, yeah,
wondering
yeah,
now.
There'll be a solid number.
Yeah.
But you don't have even any,
Is the 250K just an estimate as well,
Yeah.
until you get the final number of the actual cost of the
Yeah.
truck?
Okay.
when do you expect to have those?
We would have had them tonight, except that Dave is pushing snow.
Yeah, Mother Nature intervenes, right?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Article F. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $200,000 to repair Modoc Hill. Language to be added. Can you let us know a little bit what language you're thinking about adding there, John, or the selectmen?
I don't think we know yet. We still need to decide what we're
I can
gonna
help
do.
out with this. This is related to the May 1st storm event that we didn't get a
Okay.
declaration for. It was also the same road section damaged again December 18th, still waiting. We've gotten a range of different avenues of potential repair between 400,000 and 750,000, depending on what kind of option what kind of repair you want to make. And that's a session the selectmen have not had yet. We talked about it last week, about a dedicated meeting to discussing that project and what the approach is gonna be. It's gonna be expensive, and so a lot of times the way that I read it, I don't love it either. The language to be added is just the detail that's usually in there. They haven't decided what avenue we're gonna go down and what those details. I mean, you got a choice between replacing what's there with new, same thing, like 2 pipes side by side, they gotta be new because those are deteriorated. That's gonna be on the low end of the cost. Or do you make an improvement, they call it mitigation in the FEMA world, to improve the water flow, less restricted without the twin culverts side by side? That costs a little bit more. And then they had an engineer look at it and design a bridge which costs a little bit more.
Yeah, I think in the past we saw numbers as low as 150 and then well into the several hundred thousands, but I guess a concrete culvert can cost a lot of money if you're gonna do that. Okay.
But the bottom line is FEMA will not be paying for the 75% of that because we did not get the determination from the May
Well,
storm.
no, you don't insert language that's... The fact is, regardless of whether a disaster is declared, it wasn't. We had damage that we had to repair 3 or 4 times this year in that same area with no declarations to help us. It's just a fact. It's with this warrant article, whatever we do, we're waiting for a disaster declaration. Could come tomorrow. I doubt it, but it could. We don't know when and if it's going to come. In any event, we have to have the money to do the project in order to request a reimbursement. We have to pay up front, and the check will be in the mail later. It's the wheels of our government.
Right.
It's the
So-
way they spin in reverse sometimes.
So both Article E and F are gonna need some work before they're ready for February 8th.
And G.
Okay, and Article G is pretty straightforward. We need to replace our voting machine, and that's is $7,000 the right number
The
there?
7,000 is solid. The reason that one right there, well, it's not really my fault, it's the Secretary of State's fault. He's had a few things going on. They promised to give us, the town clerks, language that will protect the towns, because yes, they're gonna sunset the current AccuVote machines that we've been using for years. They currently have 2 conditionally approved systems. Very, very sketchy there's a lot of stuff going on in the political world that the Secretary of State's got to deal with. But the details are very sketchy as far as at what procedural point are these conditions to being met. So the Secretary of State and the Attorney General have promised to get us language for a warrant article that would allow us to appropriate $7,000, which is the cost, but also protect us so that we don't, they're gonna write the article for us, and that's what, it really should stay, language to be added, waiting on the Secretary of State. That would be the most accurate statement, or the Attorney General.
Language to be provided
Right, but
by the state.
Right, but the number is $7,000, which...
Yeah, regardless of which approved model you went with, you could buy one or the other for the same amount of money.
Yeah. Okay. Then Article H, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be placed in the previously established Highway Heavy Equipment Expendable Trust. And this has been a pretty standard yearly appropriation so that we have the funds to buy the equipment that keeps our roads intact. And weren't we talking at some point about a new grader?
Yeah, we put that off.
We put that off, okay.
Too much money.
All right. Okay, okay to go on to Article I? which is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 to be placed in the previously established transfer station capital project expendable trust fund. And that's also been a pretty standard thing that we've added for the equipment, containers, and other needs. And there have been various improvements in the transfer station over the years using those funds. And I think we've seen the results.
We bought 2 containers, 2 more containers as backups. Busy time, we'll fill all the 2 containers.
Yeah.
This is solid waste.
It seems that we'll always be generating more trash, it seems.
Growth industry.
Yeah. Okay. Article J, to see if the town, you okay with that, Sharon?
Yeah, no, I'm just looking to see what's, okay, there's that's the 81,300 that's currently in
Right.
Right,
there.
some of that's gonna come out
Yeah.
to help bring the price of that truck down.
Right.
Right.
To see if the town, Article J, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be placed in the previously established assessing expendable trust fund. And we need to do this because we have to assess every 4 years, 5 years. And so.
Next year is an assessing year.
Yeah, okay.
I can't wait.
All right. Article K, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be placed in the previously established Historical Society Building Improvement Expendable Trust Fund. And I believe they're looking for painting the building and the roof.
Fix the roof, needs to be
Roof
fixed.
and windows.
There's only currently $20,000 in their
Right.
ETF, and so this would add,
Right.
bring them up to 30, which I think covers the cost of the roof.
Yeah, but they gotta do windows.
Roof, yeah, roof
That's
and windows.
gonna be a lot more than that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Gonna have to.
Any more comments on that? Article L, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be placed in the previously established Silver Lake Dam Improvement Expendable Trust Fund. And I guess we're still waiting on complete detailed studies about what to do about the dam and how much it's gonna cost,
A
right?
lot.
Yeah. Well, no, it's gonna be, okay. So that's going to be needed. Article M, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be added to the previously established capital reserve fund for land acquisition and conservation purposes. Any discussion here? This is something pretty routinely. And that conservation CRF has 59,000? No, I'm sorry, is that
Yep.
the, yeah?
Yep, 59,691.
Yep. Okay. Article N, to see if the town will vote to establish a groundwater remediation expendable trust fund per RSA 3119A for the purposes, and language is still missing here, and appropriate the sum of $35,000 for this purpose, and to further name the selectmen as agents to expend this fund. I'm not familiar with this, so I don't know, John, if you could fill us in.
I'm gonna
Because
point
this
at
is
that
a-
guy right there.
This is a new thing that's been added to the warrants.
Well, it is. It
Yeah.
is new. On both sides of 113 here, water's been tested and tested positive for various contaminants. And we were directed by DES to have a water test done, which we did. And the same chemicals were determined in the well that supplies water to the fire station, the library, this building, and the highway department. So the long and the short of it is, this 35,000 is allowed us, we've engaged, I don't even know what you call them officially, they're more than a soil scientist, but they're professionals in this area. They came, we solicited bids from 5 companies recommended, well, that have all done a substantial amount of work in this arena with the DES, and we approached them, and the selectmen met with the company that is gonna help us out. Starting this, they were engaged in the late summer. So starting this spring, they're gonna do some test borings on our side of the road and do what they do. They insert apparatus to allow them to sample groundwater without, they drill one hole and test it over a period of time. So this basically is gonna cover that, getting set up and the holes in the ground and first round of testing. And then that's when they develop their initial report, which tells us how much more it's gonna cost.
What's the
We don't know.
contaminant?
It's in the PFAS arena,
Yeah.
PFAS, I'm not a chemist by any stretch, and there's like 150,000 chemicals in those two families. And I don't understand the difference between any of them. They're not good. They're called the forever chemicals.
Where do they came from?
That's the whole reason to do the study, we don't know.
They're everywhere. Anyway, so, but are there any, are the levels high enough that there's any risk to the people that are getting water from the wells? At this point, this is why we're doing the groundwater study?
Correct.
Right. So
There's-
at this point, we don't know of any immediate risks to
Correct.
the public?
And I don't want to mischaracterize it as good news, but between the tests that have been done on the town's water well, the level of contaminant has gone down over that period of time, but still not enough to make DES still, they wanted it to go down much more than it did. They're like, good news, it's going down, but not fast enough. We need to find out where it's coming from. Like, where is it? Where did it come from? So that's,
Okay, so if we do this remediation program and then submit the data to the DES, they're gonna tell us what we need to do
well,
about...
the town have hired a professional that's gonna do all of this stuff they represent us.
Right.
And then they're gonna generate the reports that need to be generated, and they're gonna be our agent with the DES to take care of submitting what needs to be submitted and developing an action plan. And we can't even, anything we say further than that would be speculation, because we just don't know. This $35,000, they gave us a proposal in 3 phases, I believe. I have it upstairs, but this is basically covers the first 2 phases. They've responded to DES, let them know that we've engaged them, and then the remainder will cover their getting holes in the ground so that they can do whatever sampling needs to be done.
And Tino, if we don't do it, DES will do it at a much higher price.
Right. What, is the DES report available for town people to see it? What they've told us is in there, and what their recommendations are that we hire these people, or anything like that? They must have sent a
Whatever
letter.
information we have so far.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, they must have sent us a letter saying we need to do these
Yep.
things.
We have the same thing at the transfer station. There are 5 test wells in that transfer station. You get tested twice a year, every year.
Right.
And they give us full reports on it, and they tell us where the warning signs are.
Right. But
That costs about $10,000 a year.
Right,
if I
right.
remember right.
right, but the concern is here that we have wells supplying buildings that
No.
wells don't.
Please don't add.
Right.
One well
One well.
supplies all the buildings.
Right.
And that's a drilled well, I guess.
Correct.
Right. Okay. All right, so Article O, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $9,900 $934, I read the number, to be placed in the PEG TV Expendable Trust Fund, and this sum to come from the unassigned fund balance, which represents unused franchise fees from the 2023 operating budget. And again, a pretty boilerplate article, so that the money comes from the cable company and.
But and I wish it would be clear about the fact that there's no cost to the taxpayers for this. Now, I know how the money comes. The money comes from Spectrum into the town, and the town turns it back to PEG, but it's not clear here. And I wish.
Well, this is your opportunity at town meeting to make that statement.
I will, thank you.
Okay.
But then why does it have on the list on the warrant article summary an effect on taxes of,
That's because, I understand that, because this unexpended money of $9,900,
yeah,
which is which the PEG TV has not spent,
right?
is a value of 16 cents to the taxpayers. It's not, but that's the way this shows because it's coming from the town money. So it shows up as a 16-cent expense. It should not, but that's the way
It's not 16
Technically,
cents,
it
it's penny and a
comes
half.
from your
Penny and a
cable
half,
bill.
yeah.
penny and a half.
I paid it, if
Zero.
anybody has cable, you're paying. It's
Oh, yeah.
It's an your
But it's-
spectrum fees.
But it's not the taxpayers,
Yeah.
it's the users.
The user, it's a user fee.
Yes.
The reason it has to go back in there is because the excess got deposited into the general fund.
Yeah.
To take it back out of
No,
the general fund, you
No,
have to.
and I understand that.
show it there.
I don't know that it's clear enough to all the taxpayers to
Average
understand
Joe.
that, that's all.
The simple-
average.
the simple answer is that, it's in, the money's there, it's gonna, it's been.
Gotta
put in.
get back.
All right,
Not a
okay.
problem.
Hold on.
Article P, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 for the purpose of forest maintenance, the entire amount to come from the previously established forest maintenance account and no amount to be raised by taxation. Any amount not expended during the year will be returned to the forest maintenance account. And this is another kind of boilerplate thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, annual.
Yeah, and the forest maintenance account, you probably have it,
69,915 currently resides
Right.
within that account. They're gonna
Right.
withdraw 10,000 of it.
Okay,
And then whatever they don't spend goes back into it.
okay. So Article Q, change in the designation map of Article 16. We don't vote on this, it's not a money article for us. Article R, by petition, to see if the town will vote to accept a deed from 3 roads as depicted on the plan, Banfield Acres, and these are roads that have been approved and would become part of the town public roads. I don't know that we vote on this, there's no money involved in this, but,
Well, kind of technically there is. We have to send trucks in there now to plow.
right,
I don't
Well,
know.
there's a cost to the town.
Maintenance cost,
for it.
yeah.
But there's no money in the petition or in the article. It's not a petition, but
He
there's no money.
he
Oh,
built
I guess it is a
He
petition.
built the development, and he built the roads to our standards that we asked him to build them to. So there's some responsibility, I guess, on our part. If he
Right.
built it the way he was supposed to build it, and he did.
well, that's okay, we'll vote on it if we're supposed to vote on it, but I just always thought it was, I didn't see a dollar sign in the petition article, I was like,
He's saying we, the budget board,
The budget
vote
board.
on it.
Yeah.
I don't believe that we need to vote on, but somebody can clarify that. If there's no money assigned to it,
No.
and it doesn't affect the tax rate, we don't do a vote on it.
right.
The town votes on it, but we don't.
Maybe we could check with the town attorney and see if that's necessary, but in any event, whatever is appropriate. There's a couple, next article that's still intact is Article T, by petition, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,421 in support of Starting Point, providing advocacy and support for victims of domestic violence and sexual violence. And I believe Starting Point has been something that's been part of our routine
Yeah.
charity.
Last
points.
year, we approved 5675. The town voted for
If I could interject,
5675.
do you have, I believe all of the petitions have to be in by the end of
February?
January, right?
No, by February 6th.
February 6th. Boy, someone may have to take over the spreadsheet this year if they're gonna be late, because I'm gonna be out of here very quickly.
I've only received one petitioner has given their,
Would you forward that to me? I'm assuming you would like me to again do the spreadsheet.
No, that was my question. The ones that are crossed off for the community support programs like Meals on Wheels, you know, the Gibson Center, TRICAP, nobody has submitted petitions for that money this
Not
year?
yet.
Is that why? Okay.
they've given their intention. They
Right.
usually let me know ahead of time that they intend to do.
Right.
And Linda, would you please say, hey, we really need financial information, because a couple of them haven't supplied, we've voted some money, but we really haven't had any current financial information on them. They really need to give us something.
Right. So in the warrant artery summary sheet, it's, the charities are listed as contributed, but I guess Way Station didn't get anything last year, right? They didn't
They
come,
didn't request anything
they didn't
last year.
request anything. They were late or didn't make it, okay.
Wow.
All
No,
right.
I don't believe they even, yeah, they haven't come before you guys.
Yeah, I'm surprised because they're very, being in the food pantry stuff, I deal with a lot of these organizations.
Yeah.
They're very busy. I'm surprised they haven't approached the town.
Let them know.
Okay.
They're going to know.
Okay. So the last item is the warrant article drawdown in 2023, and I think we sort of covered a lot of that already. Anything further that the committee wants to bring up? All right. Then we are open to public comment. If anybody would like, yes?
Do I say my name this morning?
Sure, that's a good thing.
My address, East Madison Road. I just want to make sure, going into the next meeting, I understand what was said tonight, and I didn't want to speak out of term before, and while you were talking, because you requested not to, but I took some notes. The truck for the garbage, the example given sounded like it was cost us more not to go out to bid to another company. And I'm just, because it came to $900 and we collected $1,200 and we would have made $300 on the deal if we used North Conway incinerator. So that's what I got out of it, and so I don't know how, if you factor in the old truck, the new truck, the driver, the fuel, I really would like a number, if it costs us less than going out to bid and having other companies. I know I just changed garbage companies, and I'm saving a significant amount for my business, so there's people out there, that's what I'm saying, and I just, I'm hoping we'll get more information about that. And as far as the $72,000 salary, I just wanna make sure I understand that it's 26 hours a week, and there wouldn't be any applicants for a $72,000 job for 26 hours a week, because that sounds like a dream job for me.
Not that could do the job.
And, so I'm just wondering if that's, just so I know going forward for my vote, is that what was stated?
Well, we're hearing different stories. I mean,
Okay.
we hear a story that the person will do whatever it takes to get the job done. And
Not
then-
26 hours, okay, so
Okay,
that's what I
and
got
then
to
we're hearing the other story about what's considered a part-time job. And-
Okay,
and,
I just wanna make sure I understand it.
I was gonna say, it's
no,
not,
yeah, yeah.
it's not, New Hampshire retirement system requires that if you're drawing retirement from the NHRS and you take a job, you cannot work over 1,352 hours per year, which is about 26 hours a week.
Okay, and they said
Before you have to pay them back. They're gonna take money back from
No, you have to become an active employee again.
Oh, yeah,
And then
I'm sorry.
enrolled in the New Hampshire retirement.
So there's a
system.
limit
Yeah.
of 1,352 hours a year, 26 hours a week that you can work legally. If,
Alright,
if,
okay.
so, yeah.
And then if you become active, your retirement when you retire again is recalculated on your last 3 years.
Okay,
So if your pay goes down when you come out of retirement, your retirement will then be recalculated, so when you retire again, it won't be what it was before.
It's based on the high three or whatever,
The last
year
three.
three,
Oh, I
last,
never heard of that.
last year, three years.
and, The other thing, I don't know if the, for the health insurance part, I appreciate your presentation. I'm just hoping as somebody who's elected to represent me, the sustainability of the whole picture, including health insurance. I mean, I can't afford this budget. I'm just be honest. I can't afford the taxes. So I'm just there's a lot of me out there in Madison. So I'm just wondering if there's something more creative now that I've moved out of employer offered insurance. Even when I wasn't employer offered insurance, you know, I accidentally stumbled upon the fact that my children didn't have to be on it. I know it's all our money. There's nothing free in the world, but they qualified for Medicaid. And they got health insurance and dental under Medicaid because they always go together. So a lot of employees may not know that because they don't ask, but it's an incredible savings to the taxpayer, and it also, you have more benefit because some of the things that can cost a lot of money when you have children is their teeth. So that was one thing that wasn't covered under employer health insurance. So it's just something, and also having worked with an insurance navigator, which is a free service. I don't know if it would work out, but if an employee was interested in health insurance and they saw an insurance navigator and went on the marketplace based on their family, what their family's income looked like, and they came up with something significantly less, then maybe we can pay 60% of that or 70% as, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just wondering if that was, you know, just as, you know, different scenarios for offering health insurance without having to offer health insurance, if you know what I mean. Give them the money for the insurance if it's a cost savings. Just because it's just not a sustainable, we can't keep going like this, obviously. Or more and more people aren't gonna be able to afford their taxes, or they're gonna, I come from an area where every single person my parents' age was taxed out of their home. Nobody was able to stay in their home. And it was not feasible to have, you know, a ranch on an acre and your taxes are $12,000 to $20,000 a year. You know what I mean? And that's my time on the budget committee of 6 years, and this, I just see non-sustainable. And I see a lot of things get rubber stamped, and my voice is there. I have electeds. I'm the legislative body, and you are my representative, and I hope that you think about what you're representing and say no to some things. And that's all I can say. Thanks.
Well, appreciate those comments. We do think about the effect of the tax rate, particularly on people of limited income, and it can be very difficult, particularly in years where we have rapid tax rates increases due to emergencies and other things like that. So we do think about it, but we also have to be able to hire qualified people, and health care and health insurance is something that they're looking for. So I think we want to encourage the selectmen and the town administrator to explore other groups that we might join and see whether we can get some discounts and whether we can maybe develop some optional plans so employees would have the ability to pick and choose, and perhaps wind up, I doubt we're going to decrease our healthcare costs, but maybe decrease the rate of increase.
Yeah, we just need to plan for the future somehow.
Right.
I don't know what the answer is, and I don't think
Well,
anyone does.
it's
Not
a societal,
here. Not here.
it's a societal issue.
It's definitely going to impact us down the line.
Right,
Yeah.
anyway. Any other comments from the public or anything? Yes, Jim?
I have one, and it's more of a point of clarification. We've talked a lot about transparency here tonight. I mean, there's been a lot of conversation back and forth. Should the email that went around from the Budget Committee on December 19th and forwarded out to all members and then replied by multiple members be considered a meeting? And should that not be included in the minutes of tonight's meeting so that it is properly recorded?
You know, I think it was I believe it was a mistake on my part, instead of sending a blind copy. If we're talking about the same email.
About a scheduling, and then some other things started popping up on said email thread.
You know, without seeing the email in front of me, I don't know. I do know that there was an email where I think 2 people responded to the email. And
But where they hit reply to all, it's very, we all get cautioned in the
Yes.
board world
Right,
and
right.
committee world, when you do that, it constitutes a meeting. So therefore, I believe it should be considered a part of this meeting to be read in and approved by the board, or the committee, so that way it's covered. Just a thought.
I don't have any problem with it. I believe it was my mistake in hitting the wrong button at the wrong time, but we will just include it into the minutes and review them at our next meeting. Would that be okay, Linda?
What would you like me to do?
If we can include that email that I sent, I believe I must have not hit the blind copy button. And if Jim wants, I think, to have it considered as a potential public meeting, we can put the minutes in, we can put that email in the minutes of our next meeting and review it and approve it. Is that
I
what
think that's the best way to do it, to make sure that
Right.
it's
We have
covered
to
and
have-
transparent.
The whole thread would have to be in there, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Everyone should be aware of it.
Thank you.
Okay, if there
Thank
are no further comments, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Meeting adjourned.